What does time travel
have to do with a tiger?
You'll find out in this week's episode of...
Welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in this week to Tops. This week's episode, we're going to be talking about our top books, our top favorite books.
Yes, our top literary picks, you might say.
Just before we start, did you have any, because I know I had trouble with this one, like figuring out because there's so many books out there, so figuring out what I was going to say. So, did you divide these any specific way?
Nope.
Okay, well then I'll tell you really quick how I divided mine. I did a classic book, classic literature, a sci-fi work, a comic book, a modern series, and then an autobiography. That's sort of how I divided mine so that I could have a little bit of everything in there. So, you can go ahead and start.
Alright. Well, with my books, I didn't divide it into any specific categories or anything. A lot of these books I have read twice. So that's, for a favorite book for me, that means I've read it twice. This one is the last one on my list. It's a really good one. It's probably actually one of my favorites, but I put it last because...
it came to your mind last.
Yeah. Well, it's called The Young Samurai, The Way of the Warrior. Yeah, by Chris Bradford. And it's actually a whole series of books. I haven't read the whole series because it's not been available, and I don't know how to get the other books. But,
you can order them online.
Probably. But, it's definitely one of the books that I have not been able to put down. I would just read it straight through. It's excellently written through, and if you like any martial arts or Japanese culture fascinates me, so I really enjoy those.
I like America, so.
America.
Yeah, the Way of the Warrior, Young Samurai, they're very well written books. I really enjoyed the ones that I did read. I didn't read as many as he's read. The first one I'll say is I'll get the comic book out of the way because sometimes it's good just to kick back and relax and read a comic book. And so the comic book that I have is Calvin and Hobbes, and that's where the tiger came from in the intro. Calvin and Hobbes is an excellent comic book. It's hilarious. The world is seen through the eyes of a smart little kid. He's sort of smart, but he doesn't apply himself in school. His imagination carries him away, and if you haven't read Calvin and Hobbes, you need to go to the bookstore and buy one very quickly because Calvin and Hobbes is hilarious. I'm sure you can find some of the comics online. It's just a great comic book to read. Very funny.
Yes, they are hilarious. For my next one, I have put The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I would have put Lord of the Rings, but I haven't completely read the Lord of the Rings series, so I just did one that I had completed in its entirety. So, The Hobbit, it's pretty much the quintessential fairy tale, I would say, of the 20th century.
Yeah.
It's got dragons, Bilbos, and hobbits and dwarves.
Hobbits, dwarves, trolls.
Magic. It's a really good read. It doesn't take a super long time to read, so definitely check that one out. And there's the movies coming out, so it's always, if you're one of the people who likes to see a movie before you read the book, the last installment of the movie trilogy will be out this year, actually. So.
Oh yeah, I guess we're in 2014, aren't we? Alright, yep, The Hobbit's a good one. I've read it, I think, twice now. The next one I'll say on my list is a modern series written in the past 10 years. I guess that's modern. In the 21st century. It's Chasing the Falconers. Now, I was debating on whether to put this on because it's actually a series it's a series of, I don't know, 7 or 8 books written for younger children, 10 and teenagers sometimes. And they're very short books, but they're very well written, and it's
written by Gordon Corman.
Yeah.
So
oh yeah, I haven't been saying Calvin and Hobbes is written by Bill Watterson. If you didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
You did?
I didn't know that.
Oh.
About Calvin and Hobbes.
It's written by Bill Watterson. But anyways, before you interrupted me, Chasing the Falconers. It follows the adventures of 2 kids. They escape from juvie and travel the world. It's a really exciting series, well, mostly the U.S. I don't think they leave the country. Nope. But as they travel America, and it's a really interesting series. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. They go all over Denver, maybe I don't remember if they went go to New York, Nebraska. So it's a very good series. It's an exciting series, and one that even if you're not big into more children's or juvenile fiction, I think you'll still really enjoy it. So Chasing the Falconers by Gordon Corman.
Yeah, I did not put that one on my list because I was pretty sure you were going to put that one on yours. But it is an excellently written series. I think part of the reason why it's so enticing is because it's split up into smaller books. Anyways, so number 3 for me is Way Back by Sam Batterman. This one might not be as well known, but it is a really fascinating read. I'm not going to go too much into the plot, but it has a lot to do with time travel and going back into like really ancient times, like before the Egyptians and stuff. And it's really fascinating. It's excellently written, and I really enjoy that book. So
yeah, it's a great science fiction action adventure. It's one that I really, really enjoyed reading, and I love reading all Sam Batterman's books. So that one was really, really good.
Yeah, so definitely check that one out.
All right, so the next one on my list is, I'll go with my autobiography. It could be autobiography, biography, but this one is The End of the Spear by Steve Saint. And if you know anything about the story of the Nate Saint and Jim Elliot and some of the missionaries that were killed in Ecuador, I think it was in Ecuador,
yeah, I think it was Ecuador.
By the Auca Indians. If you've ever heard that story, this is the story of his son, Nate Saint's son, who goes back as a missionary to the Auca Indians and sees the men that killed his father, and he sees them get saved. And it's a great story about forgiveness and learning to live and let live and God's love towards us. And it's a really, really good book. I almost cried when I read it. It's really neat to see how God's love showed through Steve Saint's life, so that he could go back and talk to even the man that had killed his father. So it's a really good book. And the movie is also very, very good. I've seen that.
Alright, so my next one, I'm going to have to say it is The Hound of the Baskervilles by Arthur Conan Doyle. It's a Sherlock Holmes book. This one I have read 2 or 3 times, and it's really good. Every time that I read it again, it becomes more and more interesting because since I've read it before, when you go back to it, you're able to see a little bit more of the foreshadowing and elements that are put in that you pick up on the second time, which you wouldn't have picked up on the first time. So that one I really like a lot.
Yeah, I really enjoy any of Sherlock Holmes stories, but that novel especially is very well done, well written, good. My next selection is a sci-fi work, and it is probably one of the quintessential sci-fi works that you might never have heard of, but it came to popularity 2 years ago, last year, through the Disney movie John Carter. And a lot of people said it was a flop. It followed the book fairly well. The book actually is A Princess of Mars, written by Edgar Rice Burroughs, who actually wrote Tarzan as well. But it is one of the first sci-fi stories that was ever written. It was written in the early 1900s. It's about this guy who gets transported to Mars and his discovery of the culture there, and it's a really, really cool book. It sort of gives us the idea of what a Martian is. And it is, because it was one of the original ones, it has a lot of original ideas, and a lot of people hadn't heard of it until last year when they created, or 2 years ago now, when they created John Carter. So I really enjoy reading that one.
And for my number 1 pick, it's going to be The Hunger Games. And not just the book of The Hunger Games. The whole series is actually really good. And if you're living in America at this time, you have probably heard of The Hunger Games. But pretty much what the story is this girl goes for fighting in a huge competition, a bunch of corruption in the government, and then she fights other people aside from people in the thing. So, no spoilers here, guys.
But there is 3 books in the series, so just think of that.
So it's really good, especially in the later books. It shows a lot of social commentary and how the media can affect a lot of things. and it's a really interesting read. So if you haven't read it, pick it up and read it. It's really good.
And for the people that, a lot of people will say, oh, well, the Hunger Games, that's just about a bunch of kids killing other kids. It's very violent and gruesome, and we shouldn't read that. I will say that it is not just about kids killing other kids. Like you said, there's a lot of political and social commentary that goes in this second and third books, and even in the first one. And so if you're going to read all three of them, and then
make your judgment.
Make your judgment, because you cannot read one without the others.
Yeah.
Okay, for my probably one of my top favorite books of all time, I have as The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but close enough. So The Count of Monte Cristo, if you haven't heard about it, it is the classic tale of revenge, true love, everything that we love about literature packed into a really long book. It's very good, but the French like to be very wordy when they write books, like Victor Hugo. And so it is very wordy, but it is a very good read. It's the story about how this young man is thrown into prison because of something he didn't do, and people hated him, so they threw him into prison. And it's about how he gets out, about how he gets out and wreaks his revenge on those who think he is dead. And so it's a really cool story. It's very masterfully written. It's very unique too. I haven't found a book that's quite like it yet. And so if you have the time for that one, it's really long, but if you have the time, give it a read, and then comment what you think about it, because this video will probably be way back in the archives by the time you finish it.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for watching. That's the end of our list. Please, in the comments, tell us what your favorite books are, and if you've read any of the ones we have mentioned, tell us what you think about them.
Sure, and then like and subscribe if you enjoy our videos.
Also, leave suggestions in the comment section for other videos. We're always willing to hear what you want to hear for our
Your idea could be featured on the next episode of Tops.
Alright, well that's all for this week. Bye guys.
See you later.